Hello, this is a presentation hosted on pharmacoinformatics.net regarding the age-old question of what is the difference between pharmacy informatics and pharmacoinformatics. The two terms get used fairly interchangeably across different professional avenues, and the purpose of this presentation is to delve into the definitions and apply a rational answer to this question. However, there is a disclaimer because, like all scientific disciplines in general, there is no perfect black and white answer in our structure to carve out any or all specialties. Rather, it's more of a spectrum of different hues and colors that have a lot of overlap. By no means is this presentation a criticism for the way pharmacoinformatics and pharmacy informatics is used in current state, as there is a fair amount of splitting hairs to distinguish them in the first place. Rather, this presentation aims to compare and contrast different perspectives of the question to help provide context to unique differences. So why don't we get right into it? A first logical place to start is with just basic definitions. The prefix pharmaco translates literally to drug. The standard definition of informatics is the science of processing data for storage and retrieval, also known as information science. When you combine these things together, you get the science of processing data for storage and retrieval, or information science, related to drugs, emphasizing the word drug. Now, the words pharmacy and drugs are certainly related, but they are different. Pharmacy is specifically the science or practice of the preparation and dispensing of medicinal drugs as a formal definition. Pharmacies are a critical function of supplying medications in healthcare, and preparation and dispensing drugs are key services in what is called the medication use process. In terms of pharmacy informatics, the definition is, again, the science of processing data for storage and retrieval, or information science again, but relating to pharmacy. By simply reviewing these definitions, there is some immediate clarity between what pharmacoinformatics and pharmacy informatics mean. Okay. A next level to explore is to see how these different terms are used in scientific publications. A simple PubMed search provides more evidence of differences between pharmacoinformatics and pharmacy informatics. One difference is simply the number of results between the two terms retrieved. There are about over 6-to-1 pharmacoinformatics versus pharmacy informatics publications. So those in pharmacy informatics need to get busier, is another way of saying that. But when you look at the top 20 keywords, mesh terms, and substances from the resulting publications, really 15 of 20 of the top keywords, mesh terms, and substances are drug discovery related, otherwise absent in the pharmacy informatics list. For background purposes, computational strategies for drug discovery is an emerging scientific field, and experimentation is referred to in silico. And I have put a reference to an article that explains how molecular modeling is combined with computational and analytical methods, usually in reference to in vitro and in vivo data, to screen and simulate the interactions of drugs in living systems. A field that is certainly more synonymous with pharmacoinformatics. So the next section dissects the branches of both informatics, pharmaceutical science, and pharmacy practice to better understand how these fields connect and relate to each other, starting with informatics. So, what is informatics? It really is the interconnection of computer science or software and computer engineering or hardware and people. I have alternatively seen this reference as the interconnection of people and information and technology. I prefer what I'm displaying on this slide since it's a little bit more technically accurate. Technology is a little bit broad in terms of what it stands for. I feel like getting a little bit more nitpicky on technology being software and hardware specifically is probably a cleaner definition. Going a little bit deeper layer, this Venn diagram overlaps three principal areas of informatics within the biological sphere. So we have bioinformatics on the top, which involves using computer technology to collect, store, analyze, disseminate biological data and information, such as DNA and amino acid sequences, etc. Going clockwise, we have another big domain, chemoinformatics, which focuses on storing, indexing, searching, retrieving, and applying information about chemical compounds, whether it's physical properties or spectroscopic signatures. Really goes into the modeling of chemicals and molecules themselves. And then finally, the other big domain here in yellow is biomedical informatics. And biomedical informatics is commonly paired with health informatics. And this is a subject matter where it applies principles of computer and information science to the advancement of life sciences research, health profession, education, public health, and patient care. So where does pharmacoinformatics live here? Well, it lives somewhere in the overlap of bioinformatics, chemoinformatics, and biomedical informatics. And we can even see that middle ground is kind of like there's a green that even specifically notes pharmacoinformatics. So it's really in this overlap where that lives. So then if we go another level deeper, further into the field of biomedical and health informatics, there is clinical informatics, with pharmacy informatics as being part of the clinical informatics picture. And close cousins next to it and overlapping with it, it would be nursing informatics, medical informatics, etc. So we can see where in the informatics world where these different fields live. So next are the branches of pharmacy practice and pharmacy sciences. So I have a figure here. It's a little busy, but it attempts to connect the branches of pharmaceutical sciences to pharmacy practice across the full spectrum of drug discovery, starting from bench research to patient care. And even this diagram, as much as I try to make it as complete as possible, there are even more facets and subdisciplines and derivations of this. But this is just to give a fuller perspective of what is involved with medication research and development from beginning to end. So this diagram really, going right to left is it really takes you from pharma to pill counter to patient outcome. I put these little arrows on the top to represent that there's really a coupling between practice in pharmaceutical science, as they take really working together for the benefit of evidence-based care. So again, where does the informatics piece of this fit? So just to simplify the diagram and put it in perspective, um, we have on the left side pharmacy practice, where we had more of the different clinical areas and operational areas. And that's where really pharmacy informatics and that domain lives. Whereas when we look on the other side and we think of all the different pharmaceutical sciences and pharmacology and pharmacokinetics, etc., pharmacoinformatics really its home lives on that side. I also put another figure here, is another example of the various stages of drug discovery and development between the work occurs before clinical trials and all the way through FDA approval. And I even put a red arrow here to show and identify. Here we can see pharmacoinformatics fits in that early research and development phases. So what does this all really mean in the end? And is there really a difference? So if you look at literature, it's really gotten past this when you look at pharmacogenetics versus pharmacogenomics. And despite their even technical differences, they're considered interchangeable. So I put a snippet of an article that highlights that perspective. So is this really a tomato versus tomato type of situation where it's just we're getting picky. And again, getting picky. Here's an example of a pharmacoinformatics work group labeled by the American Medical Informatics Association, or AMIA. So is this really right or wrong? It's a reasonable question. So what is really the conclusion? And it's really in my professional opinion and experience that pharmacy informatics is focused on the use of information technology to drive pharmacy practice and enhance that medication use process, which is really closest to the patient care perspective and venue. Whereas the pharmacoinformatics domain is really focused on the use of computational power to enhance the throughput of drug discovery by using data points and pulling in a lot of information. So as it stands in current state, there really isn't a lot of overlap between the practice of pharmacy informatics and the science of pharmacoinformatics. Now, okay, the future. Now, does it mean that these things don't connect at all and they're completely separate? Well, I don't think it means that there's no value or synergy. And I provide a use case here where you can imagine a precision medicine use case combining clinical data sets in an electronic health record and computational models to design like an antibody therapy or some type of designer drug situation that literally is able to predict and design instructions to manufacture and dose and dispense the product that is completely unique to a patient. And that would ultimately suggest the power of combining pharmacy informatics and pharmacoinformatics principles in a futuristic like model. So if we want to get technical, it's my opinion, to consider this really a practical example of the integration of pharmacy informatics and pharmacoinformatics models. So even though they might be separate now in a world much more advanced than the one today, could easily come together. And then we have a fully graphical representation of the use case I just went through, which here demonstrates that fully combined model, which starts by pulling in various patient-specific data from the electronic health record. And I have examples of medication history and lab and pathology results, vitals and weight, even a full genetic profile, which is all stored and captured in that EHR, which then is incorporated into a powerful pharmacoinformatics model that pulls in population data and various bio and chemoinformatics data to produce these instructions for an optimized, personalized therapy, from not only producing the recipe for the molecular entity, but all the way to the actual therapeutic dosing that is then prepared and labeled in the pharmacy and then administered to the patient, only to further collect data and optimize outcomes as the therapy persists. So this is really just that illustrated form of what I just went through. And it doesn't end here. Um, Information technology is extremely dynamic and constantly evolving the landscape of healthcare. And we have new fields of study and solutions that are constantly popping up and providing new opportunities to optimize medication use, patient care, and or even direct treatment. So these emergent areas only blur new lines and connections to the scope of informatics. So I provided some examples here, which include pharmacocybernetics, also the whole realm of digital health products. So you have digiceuticals as well as digital therapies themselves. You have telemedicine and telepharmacy and et cetera. There's a lot of different emergent fields like this with the further development of IT tools. So it's been a pleasure to present this material, and hopefully it was informative in helping you decide the differences between pharmacy informatics and pharmacoinformatics. And please check out pharmacyinformatics.net for new content and features. It's always being updated. Thank you.